Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Trevor Lane here, traveling in Las Vegas to check out some Lakers preseason games that we've got coming up. Joined as always by Keith Smith. Keith, preseason has kicked off. NBA basketball is back on the floor. There's something that just feels right about this, about turning on the TV and there's NBA basketball. I don't know. I don't want to say NBA, you complete me and go all rom-com or anything like that, but NBA, you complete me.
No, man, it does. Yeah, I said the other day, it's my happy place. I'm back in my happy place. The NBA's back on. I'm already filling up the DVR, and I can't. I do watch games on the mobile, like after the fact, or not mobile, but online streaming version and stuff. But for some reason, I still am always DVRing games. I'm watching them that way. I guess it's probably because I'm old. Like that's probably it. I'm just I do miss it. Did you ever have a TiVo, like an actual TiVo?
I did not. I never got on the TiVo, but I was an avid VHS tape user where you have the one tape that is made that you have specifically to record TV shows, and then once you watch them, you just record back over and over until the quality of the tape degrades.
Yep.
That is a joy that this generation will just not know.
Nope,
and we're dating ourselves here, Keith.
And then if you wanted to keep it, you broke the little tab off,
That's
and then it
right.
wouldn't record over it anymore. Yeah, man. Yeah. Now everybody's like, what the hell are these old farts talking about?
I asked my wife the other day, I said, do you remember adjusting the tracking on the VCR? And she didn't remember doing that. I'm like, when it was a little bit off and you'd have to turn the little knob or whatever. But
I was explaining to our daughter the other day the idea of having like the ridiculously long phone cord.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'd stretch like into the other room when you didn't want anybody to listen to it. And then it would always get tangled up. And in my house, my mom would then scream and yell at me about it. So, yeah.
Oh, we had a rotary phone.
Oh, we did too at my grandparents. Yeah, my grandparents had that until I moved down here. So, for all I know, that thing's still on the wall. It might be like structurally part of the house. So
it could. It's load bearing. It's like the clown painting in Jim Halbert's house.
That's it, dude. That's exactly what I thought of.
This is why we do this show.
That's it. This has been Trevor and Keith talk about old technology.
That's right.
You guys enjoyed it.
That's right. Marvel, Black Panther 2. And that, I mean, can we be any more excited for that? Right. That's coming out. We get NBA. There's so much to be excited about. I don't even know where to turn to right now.
There's so much going Halloween coming. Next thing we know, it'll be the holiday season. Yeah, man, we got it all going on.
Let's go. Good times. Good times.
Speaking of
good times, inadvertently good times. Like, I don't feel good saying this is going to be good times for him, but Robert Sarver is going to get a fortune for the Phoenix Suns. Some punishment. Projections are somewhere north of $4 billion. This is NBA valuations. They know that a new CBA is coming. That whoever's purchasing knows, like, hey, there's not going to be a work stoppage. That doesn't seem to be where this is heading. Everything's going to be good there. You're going to keep making money hand over fist. And I think there's people out there with money to burn that want to have kind of the fame that comes with owning an NBA team. There's a little bit of kind of a vanity purchase. And I think that the Suns are going to get a hefty amount for this franchise and Robert Sarver, even though he's kind of not being forced to sell, but he's being put in a position where he feels like he has to sell as a result of his punishment for all the terrible things that he did. But he's going to make a lot off of selling right now.
Yeah, so the last three teams that sold: the Brooklyn Nets, $2.35 billion in 2019, Houston Rockets, $2.2 billion in 2017, and the LA Clippers for $2 billion in 2014. So that just gives you a sense. So it's been 3 years since we've seen a team sold. As many have noted, Phoenix is it's a very good market. It's obviously a warm weather city. It's close to a lot of key West Coast cities where people like to be, including Los Angeles, Las Vegas, those kind of things.
Like Mark Stein called it, West Coast adjacent.
Yeah, that's basically that is right. Yeah, that is true. And then you also have to factor in there. They just built a really pretty new practice facility. That seems like it's a pretty big deal. And they just finished renovating all the arena. And then, as you said, the CBA, the new TV deals. There's likely to be expansion teams coming. Yeah, this is going to be. I don't know that it'll get to 4 billion. That almost double what the Nets went for 3 years later. That seems a little high to me, but I'm guessing somewhere well into the threes.
Well, I mean, that's the number that's kind of being thrown out there. But like we always do, we have to question who benefits. I wonder if
Sure.
that number might be coming from Sarver's side,
Oh yeah.
saying, "Hey, just kind of throwing this out there, speaking it into existence, that it could be $4 billion
Yeah, right.
that they wind up getting." But
Well, it's like
we'll
when you
see.
sell a house, right? You're like, we have multiple offers on
Right.
the house, full price offers, So yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you know what? He's going to get a lot for this team, whether it's 4 billion, whether it's 3.5, whatever it is. The Suns are going to go for a lot, and they could change things up quite a bit in Phoenix, especially when we look on the floor. Look at how Steve Ballmer changed things with the Clippers. Perhaps they
Mhm.
become a franchise that is willing to spend when historically they haven't. I mean, just look at what
Yeah.
happened with DeAndre Ayton's contract situation.
Yeah, and beyond that, right? They sold their G League team.
Mhm.
They've done some things that run really counter to the way you want to see the game continue to grow. And we'd be a little remiss. I know you touched on it briefly. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks that this
Yeah.
dude who's not a good guy is going to make billions of dollars. But let's be positive. We're close to him being out of our NBA lives and
Right.
WNBA lives. Like, just go away, be gone. Go just like Donald Sterling, right? He made a ton of money off the Clippers sale. He's a absolutely horrible, awful person, but
Both are
like
bad. Sterling was a different level, though.
yeah, and there was
Come
a
on.
lot. I mean, there was 30, 40 years of history of him being
Yes.
an awful
Right.
person too. But it sucks when crappy people are gonna make money. But the important thing is they'll be out, they'll be
Yeah.
gone, they won't be part of, as you said, it's like a vanity purchase, right? For a lot of these people. They always talk about owning a sports team. It's like a very exclusive club that you're buying into. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, just if anybody notices any hiccups or anything in our programming here, if there's any kind of freezes or whatever, I am working on hotel Wi-Fi here, so just
It's not
throwing that
me
out
for
there.
a change.
It's not Keith's fault or anything. We're doing our best. Hopefully everything's fine, but just throwing it out
Yeah.
there just in case. The
We'll hang in
stars are
there.
back. The stars are back for the NBA.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of injured players or formerly injured players now returning. We saw Ben Simmons make his return. ZIon Williamson is going to be making his return. You've got Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. There's a Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, right? Like all these guys are coming back, and it's fantastic. Last season's NBA season was just absolutely decimated with injuries. You look at how many different teams had their fortunes drastically changed due to health, and it's great to see these guys getting back out on the court, getting healthy, and starting the season off fresh.
Yeah, this is me knocking on wood here. So
Yes,
let's just
please.
just just cover our bases. But yeah, and we're less than an hour from ZIon playing
Mhm.
as well, which is great. So yeah, I mean it's really good to see all these guys back. We've unfortunately had a couple guys that are going to be out at least to begin the season. But getting the super duper stars back is just so huge for the game. And it's really how you want to start a season, right? We want to see
Mhm.
the year start with all these guys on the floor healthy and ready to go. And there weren't guys who were out all last season, but even like your team, right? Having LeBron and AD back on the floor after missing them for so many games
Yeah.
last year. You feel everything feels better watching these teams with everybody kind of starting fresh. And these are too some of these guys. These are great players on what should be great teams too. So,
Yeah.
the
The
Clippers
Clippers.
guys, the Nuggets
Yep.
guys, especially, kind of at the forefront there with that. So, yeah, I mean, great stuff all around. We're excited. And, I watched a lot of, those guys and they all looked good physically. I mean, timing's off, a little rusty, obviously, but, guys are looking good. And that's all we really care about at this point.
Yeah, and hopefully, again, Adam Silver remembered to turn off injuries,
Right.
and we'll stay healthy. Who was it? I think it was 2 nights ago that came up with an injury that was gonna keep them out for a little bit.
Uh,
Somebody
it's
popped up on the injury
escaping
reports.
me.
It was enough to where I
Yeah.
was flooded on Twitter, like, "Hey, we forgot to turn off injuries."
Yes.
Um,
Gosh, who was it? Yeah, it was
I'm
like
going
2.
back into my account here to double check because I know it was somebody.
No, yeah. It's already starting to run together, man, and we're like,
That's where we're at.
yep, it's coming fast and furious. I'll be honest, there's a lot of sports happening right now.
There are.
That's it's a lot to keep up with. It was but yeah, it's I'd rather that than that period of months where we went through with no sports. So
Oh yeah,
I'll take
and
all the
just look at what we're going to have in November
yeah. Oh,
when
I
we
know,
get the
right?
World Cup going as well,
I know.
football. But, you're going to have everything going on.
And
It's
it's
going to
going to be
be
like all day too, because we'll have the
it's
World Cup all day in the morning here on the East Coast. So yeah, good times.
it's
All
going to
right,
be it's going to be crazy. All right, I don't know who it is now.
I don't know.
I tweet too much apparently because I can't even find it in my own timeline.
Yeah, man, if you
That tells
tweet
me
too
maybe
much,
I've
I
got a problem.
don't know how much I tweet then. If you tweet too much. All right, let's
All
move
right,
on to our next
moving
story.
on. Tyler
Yeah,
Herro gets an extension with the Miami Heat. There were a lot of conversations about this over the summer. Would they maybe move Tyler Herro before giving him this big extension? But talented player. What did he put up? 25-4, I believe, this past season, and
something in that range.
pretty close to that. And he gets the bag. Tyler Herro gets paid here in a 4-year deal. What is it, about $130 million on this contract? What are you thinking on this, Keith? Is this good value from Miami? I mean, like, I guess the test is always, would a team trade for him on this contract as soon as he is trade eligible?
Yeah, that's the thing is like we gotta start reframing contracts a little bit in the
It was
concept
Evan
of
Mobley. I found it.
there it is.
All
Good
right,
call.
1 to 2
Yeah.
weeks for Evan Mobley.
Yes. Yeah, that is a good call. That one is a bummer. Not quite as league altering as Luke Cornett
Sure.
being out for 1 to 2 weeks, but we'll when the green cornet is down, things are tough. So, Tyler Herro, we got to reframe the way we think about these contracts. People see the number and they go right to kind of sticker shock.
Yep.
But we got to think of it in percentage of the cap. We have actually added over on Spot Track. If you go to our team salary pages,
Saw that.
there's now a percentage of the cap there because we got to start thinking that way. Then not only the percentage of the cap right now, we got to think of the percentage of the cap and where the cap is going to go. We're headed into the salary cap is projected at 134 million for next year. We're only a couple years after that. It's going to be up around 150 to 160 million. So $30 million is not what it feels like, I guess,
Right.
is, yes, it's still a lot of money, but this is well shy of a max deal for Herro. One, he only got 4 years. He did not get the 5 years. It's actually two, as we always talk about, right? They with the creative reporting, it's 130 million if he hits all of his incentives. So it's really only 120 million base salary. So next year, next season, when this kicks in, $27 million. That to me, you start thinking of it that way, and it starts to feel a lot more like, okay, Tyler Herro is a player. I know there are a lot of people saying, like, can this guy even be on the floor closing playoff games? And that's a fair question. But you got to play 82 games before you even get there first. He is a wildly valuable regular season player, if nothing else. This is a guy who, as you said, he averaged almost 21 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists off the bench for Miami. So, we'll see. Now, where I think what really gets interesting, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, taking Herro kind of as a part of the overall picture, this is what the Heat have on the books for next year. So Jimmy Butler, about 45.2 million. Bam Adebayo, 32.6 million. Kyle Lowry, 29.7 million. Herro, 27 million. Duncan Robinson, 18.2 million. Victor Oladipo, if he picks up his option, 9.5 million. Caleb Martin, 6.8 million. Then you've got to re-sign Max Strus, who starts in front of Tyler Herro with that. So they are already, as it stands right now, they're going to be about $20 million over the salary cap. Or over the luxury tax, rather, deep into the tax next year. That's where I start to wonder. That's without any money accounted for Strus. So where do you think that goes?
Yeah, that's an interesting spot to be in. Jimmy Butler's got what is this, 4 years, including this season, still left under contract with a player option for the final year. You've got Bam Adebayo has 4 years left under contract. So it's not like you've got any of these guys that are expiring.
Yeah,
that
it's
you
not
can
like
ship
it's a
out for
1 year
something.
thing. Exactly.
Right, exactly. You're committed to this squad for a while. It makes me wonder if this will create even more incentive on the part of the Heat to move off of, say, Duncan Robinson or something like that. If we see some sort of a move there, But that is a lot of money stacked up. Now, this is a good team. This is a good Heat team. But if I'm spending that kind of money, I want to feel like this is the team. This is the team that is going to win the championship, or is one of the top three, at least in the Eastern Conference. And maybe they are. They might be, but they're kind of in the mix right now. Now, look, you can't just not sign Tyler Herro and let him walk away for nothing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Miami may have some moves coming in the future in order to rectify some of these things. You look at, again, Duncan Robinson jumps out to me as the contract that maybe you potentially try to move if you can find a team with cap space. And we know right now San Antonio, Indiana, both sitting there saying, hey, bring us your bad salaries. So,
and there's going to be a handful of teams that join them in that next summer too.
Right.
So, and to be very clear, this is not a problem this year because Hero's only making like $5 million this year.
Correct.
In the last year of his rookie scale deal. This is a next year thing. I think what changes now is Duncan Robinson. You almost got to kind of move that contract without taking anything back, as opposed to a year, not even a year ago, 6 months ago or so, when we were at the trade deadline, or I guess about 8 months ago, we were talking about Duncan Robinson's contract being a piece to go get you something.
Yeah.
Now you're probably looking at it as, you got to go. Cause I just, it's, $25 million over the tax. I don't know that the Heat are going to be looking at it saying, hey, yeah, we can be a 40, $45-50 million over the tax team. Like, that's not going to be where that goes. And like I said, Strus, Gabe Vincent, who's been a very key player for them, with Kyle Lowry getting older. He's been a guy who has started a lot for Miami over the last couple of seasons, and played, big roles for them. That's another guy who needs re-signed. So those are two guys you're going to have to figure something out. You just can't keep them all, because I just ran it. If Oladipo opts in, they're at over $170 million for 8 players.
Wow.
Yeah. And much like this year, not a single one of those players is a power forward. So that's just a whole other issue to factor in. But that said, you figured out they were a very smart front office in Miami. Yeah. I trust they will sort through this and they'll get it figured. I don't hate the Herro extension at all. I think people went a little too crazy online bashing it. I think it's perfectly fair value for what he brings. I think sometimes we forget, like,
the cap's going up.
The cap's going up, but also the goal of basketball is to score points. Like, scoring still is a valuable skill in the game. And I think, people, for whatever reason, when I get players' primary skill is scoring the ball, I think people are like, how good can he be? All he does is score. Like, it's still kind of the point of the game. I don't know. And he does it fairly efficiently too. So I'm not going to hate on a guy.
And he's young. And as a young player, what you want to do when you're building on a roster, what you want to do is you want to pay somebody for what you believe they will be during that contract, not necessarily what they are right now. And that's where teams sometimes get themselves into trouble. Sometimes you can get bargains that way. If you pay a guy for the future and then they really hit that next level, that contract, like Steph Curry's contract for a while, right? When he was, we were worried about his ankles. And so then he got this below market value contract. And next thing you know, the Warriors have this incredible bargain on their hands. Sometimes that happens, but you want to pay a guy for what you believe he will be over the course of that contract, not necessarily what the player is right now in this moment. So fans looking at this and saying, this guy comes off the bench, he can't be worth this much money. You have to consider what the Heat plan on him being over those next 4 years.
I don't even care, too, that he comes off the bench. He played 33 minutes a game last year. Like, it doesn't, I get it.
That's
but
like Manu Ginobili comes off the bench. That's not really come off the bench. Off the bench.
Yeah. Well, Manu's NBA career was, built coming off the bench. He was one of the best players in the league for a lot of those years. I mean, that's, I get it. Maybe there is some level of upside there of, capping it. But I'm not going to stress about that part of it.
All right, we did have another extension. Steven Adams signs an extension. Steven Adams, the physical personification of Grizzly, is now on a
Grizzly Adams.
Yeah, that's right. Did have a beard. 2 more years with Memphis, and I think this is just fine for the Grizzlies to lock him up. Yeah, this is a guy that can set screens, that can be that just enforcer that you need to pair with Jamal Murray. And look, they had a great season last year, beat everybody's expectations. Obviously, they're going to be waiting for Jaren Jackson Jr. to get healthy, but this is the team that's proven that they can deal with guys getting hurt and just keep on chugging along and get things done. So I think that if you're Memphis, you just keep things rolling, and this is a smart extension in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, for everything you said, he's kind of become John Morant's protector there. That's important. John Morant is still a smaller guard. That teams, as they continue to get better and he gets better, there it happens with every small guard. The number one thing teams do is they try to get physical with him, and he plays a very physical downhill game. So you want to be, what you want to do is, all right, you put Ja on the floor. We've got a guy back there who's going to do the same thing. And I'll never forget, right, when I forget who it was now, but he picked the guy up, right, and walked him
Yeah,
away from the
that's right.
the whole the little fracas there in the middle of the lane. He just picked the guy up and walked him away from it. So yeah, he's 12.6 million, fine, right? I have that's exactly what it is too. It's 12.6 million each of the next 2 seasons. That's fine. That's starter value for a starting center, and I'm okay with that money.
I found the clip of it. I'm watching it. If you want to see what I'm seeing, I can't put it on my screen right now. But Steven Adams picks up Tony Bradley,
Yes, that's who it was.
who's a big guy.
Yeah.
And Steven Adams just picks him up like he's picking up a 4-year-old and like,
Yep.
okay, nap time. We're going to go over here now.
It's great.
Carries him away.
Amazing. And you're right. Yeah, Tony Bradley is a big dude. He's not small.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's like 6'11", like 300 pounds. So yeah.
Another extension. Larry Nance Jr. gets an extension with the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans brought in some players over this last year, and already got an extension done for CJ McCollum. Yep. Now you've got one done for Larry Nance Jr. as well. A lot of talent here. The Pelicans are the team that a lot of people are picking to make a big jump this year. We'll see. A lot of that is going to depend on the health of ZIon Williamson, but it seems like the Pelicans have found a group that they really like, and they're going to commit to it and see what they can do.
Yeah, of the players that are projected to make the Pelicans opening night roster on standard contracts, only Dyson Daniels is the only new player from the end of last season. There are two-way guys or new guys, 2 rookies, but Dyson Daniels, another rookie. They did not sign or trade for a single player this offseason. They really get a jump on their offseason at the trade deadline by getting CJ McCollum and Larry Nance Jr. And now they've locked in to those 2 guys over the next couple of years for decent chunk of change. Nance extension will kick in next year, 10.4 million, and then 11.2 million the year after. That is essentially mid-level money for Nance. Really, really good, solid number for a guy.
Switching wing, it's worth that.
He's going to be a key part of their rotation. I think he may be their closing 5 on this team at times, next to ZIon and Brandon Ingram up front, and probably McCollum and probably Herb Jones for defense. And you do a lot of different things there. They need a defensive minded big as well. There are other bigs, ZIon and Jonas Valanciunas, far more offensive minded players. So all around, I think pretty good stuff here on this extension. Again, mid-level money. Can't you can't complain when a good solid rotation player is getting mid-level money. That's basically what the mid-level's for.
It's what it's there for. Yeah, absolutely. And Larry Nance Jr., I can say from his time with the Lakers, he's a good dude as well. Bruno Fernando gets a new contract with the Rockets, gets moved from being a 2-way contract into a 4-year deal over $10 million. Keith, I haven't seen the reporting on this, though, to clarify if this is 4 years fully guaranteed, if there's non-guaranteed years, what this looks like, player options, team options. Do we know any of that yet? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, we can't talk about it because we don't talk. We can't talk about
Bruno. That's right. Okay, on to the next story. Sorry.
Yeah. No, so I will mea culpa here. I blew this a little bit on Twitter the other day. I get a little excited and get a little bit ahead of myself. So this year, fully guaranteed at about 2.7 million. Then his next 3 years are all non-guaranteed.
Okay.
Fully non-guaranteed too, with late June trigger dates. So 2.5 million, then 2.7, and then 2.8 over the last 3 years. The final year is also a team option. There we tend to see that a lot on these deals where there'll be a team option on top of a non-guarantee. With that, the challenge for this one is those are both like the same date. So if you pick it up, he's going to be fully guaranteed, but we'll see. My guess is he doesn't make it quite that far. I ran some numbers on the Rockets a little bit earlier today. depending on what they do with Kevin Porter Jr., if they yank him to an extension or not, they're legitimately looking between 55 and 70 million in cap space next summer. And they don't have a lot of roster spots to fill because they've drafted 7 guys in the first round the last 2 years. So this could be a team where you could very easily see this Rockets team, if they show improvement this year, you could see a veteran player saying, all right, you know what? They're close. Like maybe I can go there and, be the guy to help get them over the hump and get them over the top. And, when you've got 55 to 70 million to spend, whether it's a free agent or via trade, you've got a lot of optionality, and you can roll that money over too. So, we'll see where it goes. But as far as Bruno Fernando goes, good deal for him. Really solid. It all being non-guaranteed at the end. That's, fine. The 2.7 this year. We'll see. They already waived Ty Jerome after that big 8-player trade with the Thunder. We'll see what else they do with Favors and Harkless. I've been asking around the league. A handful of people think they're probably going to keep those guys, keep them as trade chips for later into the year. But we'll see. They've got some cuts to make. They're going to eat some more guaranteed money, but they're miles below the tax, so they should be fine.
Yeah, I like that. This is how you wind up with bargain contracts, by taking a chance like this. And it's not even that much of a chance because of the non-guaranteed years that you talked about. But this is how you wind up with bargain contract. Like if he hits, and at least even if he's just a rotation player, that's gold on this kind of a contract. And especially because you can have that over multiple years. This is the contract that I've been highly critical of the Lakers for not signing anybody to anything resembling these kinds of contracts, for not trying to get those bargains in the future, instead signing 1-year deals that allow guys to just walk away after they increase their value. This is, I think, a great move for the Houston Rockets. I think they're still a year away from being the team that's going to attract veterans, but Jabari Smith Jr. did drop 21 points in preseason the other day. So who knows?
It's really good.
If they do take that kind of a leap, then maybe. My gut says they're a year away from getting those veterans, though.
I think so too. I'm with you on that. I think they're probably a year away, but sometimes we see these teams, they maybe they win 30 games, and it's like, all right, I could be the guy to come in. On Jabari Smith Jr. too, looked far more comfortable than he did at any point in summer league.
Yeah.
I thought he was aggressive going for a shot. I thought he looked really, really good. On that too, Bruno Fernando, he's only 24 too, so he's big, sometimes take a little bit longer to show up and fully pop. So we might be, this might be one where you could be right, and you're right with that too. You're like, when I don't, how do I say this? I have no problem with giving the veteran guys the 1-year deal, because you're kind of looking at it as, all right, guys coming in for a year and then probably moving on, or we'll re-sign them to another 1-year veteran minimum deal. Yeah, when it's a kid like this, if they're under 25, 26 years old, I generally want to see them lock a guy up for a couple of years. I mean, that's part of what Dallas got Jalen Brunson for several years, but they didn't do that team option on that last year, or they couldn't get his agent to bite on it, or whatever the situation was. And they didn't have any restricted rights on him. So, not that Houston will on Bruno Fernando either, but you got to be a little bit more kind of proactive planning on taking shots on these kids and trying to do what you can to control the process. Hey, you know what we didn't put on the list? Speaking of veterans, Blake Griffin.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
so did we talk about it? I don't think we did.
I might have. Maybe I did that one with Ron.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think we did.
I think that was with Ron.
I'll just give my thoughts real quick. I don't think this is going to be a swing the title move by any means, but I also don't think it's bad for the Celtics. I think it's fine. I think too many people are looking at him as a Robert Williams replacement, when in reality, the thing he's closest to is the Danilo Gallinari replacement. Nice.
Oh,
well done.
Shoot, sorry. But wrong name.
I think it's fine. I don't have any I'm not over the moon over it, but I think for a team that needed it, the puppy wants it. For a team that is hoping to contend, and they have 1 million roster spots open, it's fine to be giving them to vets like this.
Sure, absolutely. And I talked about this when we first discussed it. to me, he's kind of they looked at, like a Dwight Howard type player. They looked at a Carmelo Anthony type player. He's kind of the middle ground between
You know
those
what?
two
We're right.
things.
We did talk about this. I'm just losing my mind. That's all. I'm getting old.
That's why we start the show talking about VHS tapes.
True. Good point. Yeah. All right. We can move on. Go listen to Friday's show if you want more thoughts on Blake Griffin.
All right. Let's talk about somebody I know we didn't talk about on our last show. That's Miles Bridges. His qualifying offer is set to expire. Sounds like
it did
that's
expire.
Exactly what's going. Oh, it did expire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was about to expire.
No,
So it has
expired.
expired.
It expired on Saturday, I think it was. But yes, we only just got the news in the last day or so.
Got it. Okay. So with that expiring or has expired, what does that mean for him? What does that mean for the Hornets?
Yeah, so still a restricted free agent. So Charlotte still controls all the process there as far as if he signs with it. All it removes is he can't just sign the qualifying offer with the Hornets now. Now, if he wants to sign a contract with the Hornets, it's got to be a negotiated, mutually agreed upon thing. Anytime the qualifying offer is issued to a player, the player can immediately sign it if they want. And then if they're eligible, which Bridges would have been, the next year, an unrestricted free agent. And there's a handful of cases where the player would be still restricted for a second year. I think the most recent example of that was probably Matthew Dellavedova, way back when with the Cavs. He signed his qualifying offer, but he'd only had 2 years in the league, so he was still a restricted free agent the next season. But in this case now, the qualifying offer is gone. But again, the Hornets still control this process. They still have everything. And I think if you're the Hornets, part of why you let it expire is, and I'm not saying this is how this would have played out, because I don't think under any conditions was Miles Bridges going to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want him to just sign it and get a $7 million payday, because there was about $7 million for nothing, because he's clearly not going to play for the Hornets at any time soon. In addition, if he signed it, he then immediately takes up a roster spot.
Right.
And there's no way around, anything, because Miles Bridges has not been suspended or disciplined by the NBA, because he cannot be suspended or disciplined
under contract
until, one, he's not under a contract, but also until there's actual legal, not that there hasn't been legal action, but until there's been legal punishment, I guess is the best way to put that. There's nothing that under the CBA, the league has to wait. They just have to wait. So that's why the NBA hasn't done anything here. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I know that's not a great way to put that, because it's not the case, really, and it shouldn't be out of sight, out of mind. But that's as far as punishment goes. That's kind of how it goes. He's just he doesn't exist in terms of the NBA right now.
Yep. And we'll see where this ultimately goes. But I mean, he's got much bigger problems than worrying about playing in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I will be very surprised if we see Miles Bridges play in the NBA this year. I can't imagine any way that happens.
There's been some workout footage of him. He's been doing like open runs and stuff with NBA guys, which, to be expected. He's getting out there and playing, but he's not going to be on an NBA court anytime soon.
It's just one, and that's also why the Hornets, there were a lot of people said, why didn't they just renounce him and move on? Well, by doing this too, you might have a team that might come in and be like, look, we really need a forward badly. Like, we'll take it, and whatever comes, and we'll just sign him. Now the Hornets control the process still.
Right.
No one can sneak in and give him a 1 year minimum contract offer, because the Hornets would just match it and then just stash him on the bench if they, so wanted to do that. So that's why they let it sit. They can still control the process and keep it from going a direction, really, quite frankly, nobody wants it to go.
Last thing we've got for this show, the Lakers and the Pacers still in trade talks. In fact, this goes along with something that we were hearing over at Lakers Nation, that the eve of media day, the night before, there was optimism that a deal was going to get done, that it was going to happen, that 2 first-round picks were going to go to the Indiana Pacers along with Russell Westbrook, and Buddy Hield and Miles Turner were coming to the Lakers. That ultimately didn't happen. The Lakers had some thoughts about it and some concerns, and ultimately decided not to do the deal. But we know the Pacers and Lakers were talking, got pretty deep into conversations, almost pulled the trigger. wouldn't shock me if, say, 10, 15, Eric Pincus says 20 games into the season, they revisit this or something, depending on how each team is doing. But they obviously, it was very, very close to actually being a done deal and making that trade happen.
Yeah, it's also, I thought some of the reporting, to some extent, it was a little bit. I know I texted you about it. I'm like, boy, that was an awful long article to tell us stuff we already knew. There was new details in there. I thought the reporting of Rob Pelinka was supposed to do his media availability the day before everybody else.
It was a couple days before with Darvin Ham, and then they mysteriously canceled it the night before.
Yeah, and that was a little, all right, that's, said that lends credence to that they were pretty close on this. One thing to keep an eye on here with them kind of regrouping on this. This rarely happens in the NBA because the teams are very rarely in the position to do it. But the Pacers are sitting on almost $30 million in cap space. They've got to use some of it because otherwise they have to pay that money out anyway. They could just give everybody on the roster a bonus. It's probably not going to be how it plays out. But Miles Turner is a really good candidate for the very rare renegotiate and extend deal where they could plus his number up. Remember, he only makes $18 million, which, I mean, I'd like to make $18 million. Don't get me wrong. I might have you put $18 million on black out there and see where it goes. But anyway, I think that's just something to keep an eye on. There could be the renegotiate and extend possibility there. And what happens in that process is if you're sitting on cap space, you can up his number this year. They could up his number, all the way up, very high. And then tack years on to that. I'm not saying they're going to bring him up to the max or anything like that, but maybe they bring him up into the mid 20s and then, go from there. Probably more commensurate with what his like market value would be. Because I don't get the sense, even though the Pacers are clearly maybe moving in a different direction, they're not just going to let Miles Turner walk this summer. So I would expect if there's no trade, like imminent, like gonna happen, we really feel like it's coming, I would not be surprised if we see the renegotiate and extend, and then that makes it hard to trade him because then you put then the extend and trade rules trigger, that puts a delay on how soon you can trade the player and all those kind of things.
Right, but then that could put him on the market like this summer or something like that, exactly, on the trade block. And
when he's signed,
I don't know, like what, I guess it would depend on the team getting Miles Turner. What would be, I would imagine he'd actually probably be more valuable with, say, 4 years under contract than as an expiring deal, unless he was going to a team where he was telling them, hey, I want to be with you long term. Sure. I want to sign this kind of contract with you when I'm able to.
And if this trade happens, the other thing, Turner, because he's an expiring contract, he's eligible to be extended all the way up until the very last day of the league year. Like we saw with Gary Harris, Taurean Prince, and a couple others were extended all the way at the very, very tail end of the league year. That could happen with this one. If he gets traded to the Lakers, I would be shocked if it isn't followed shortly thereafter with at least news of hey, there's a deal agreed to, and I think there's a good chance it would be an extended trade transaction going into it, just because I think it's it doesn't make sense for the Lakers. He's not a 35-year-old player, and they're not one player definitely away from winning a title where you say, all right, screw him. If he walks, he walks. It was worth it because we won. They would be getting him for that to be a long-term arrangement. So they would definitely work something out.
If you were thinking he's leaving, there's no way you're giving the Pacers what they would want in return because it wouldn't be worth that.
It'd be completely irresponsible to do.
Yes.
So just a couple things to keep an eye on if this does pick back up down the line. I mean, it's certainly possible. I forget. I was listening to, I think it was Zach Lowe and Howard Beck, and Howard Beck was like, he was like, it's this where everybody wants to believe, right? Everybody wants to believe.
That's right.
And everything is like, and like and it's true, right? Like, I want to believe Russ is gonna run 50 ball screens a game and is going to be this defensive monster and all that stuff. Let's talk again around Thanksgiving or Christmas
and see what that looks like.
We're actually really at. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's easy today to go set 50 ball screens a game. It's a little bit harder when you've been doing it for 4 months.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see what that looks like once we actually get a little further into the season. We've had one preseason game. Let's see what it looks like once you're
Exactly.
15, even 20 games into the regular season. We'll see how things are going at that point.
I'm going to add one quick thing here at the end.
Yeah.
The Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson showdown. First one is tonight as we're recording this. It's in about a half hour, so you'll probably hear this after it's actually already happened. But it's they're going to go, and then they're going to play again on Thursday as well. That one's at 3 p.m. Eastern. Right down the road from you. You should go check it out, to be quite honest.
I know. I really should. I've got to figure out a way to get over there. Now, I have a feeling it's going to be a little difficult to get in, but
it might be, yeah. Did you hear though about
Wembanyama? The quote?
Well, his quote was fantastic. The Scoot Henderson one,
yeah,
the one where he said, "If I had never been born,
right? If I had never been born, he'd be the best." Yeah, that was fantastic.
But no, he has reportedly, when he reported back to his team in France, Metropolitans 92, is the name of the team. He measured at 7'4", and there's a belief that he's actually 7'5".
He's still
and it's weird because if you haven't seen him play, you got to check these games out or see the highlights. He looks ridiculously big and lanky and long, but he doesn't move. He moves so fluidly. He doesn't move like a big, tall, stiff guy like we see so often when guys are that tall. He really, moves very fluidly. I'm not going to say by any means he's going to be as good as Kevin Durant, but the way he moves is very Kevin Durant-like on the court. So yeah, and Scoot Henderson though, another fun guard. He's going to probably be the number 2 pick in the draft. So that's my plan here. When we're done, I'm going to check in on a little ZIon Williamson action, and then I'm going to go pop over and watch a little bit of that one, and then I'll be quite honest, and then I'm going to record the rest of it. I'm going to go to bed.
I don't blame you. I'm going to try to get to stay up a bit here in Vegas, and then be off and running tomorrow for preseason games. Yeah, I'm going to do I'm tired.
Find Trevor at the tables. That's where
right.
Be.
I'm gonna be there till 4 a.m.
We're gonna he's gonna win big, and we're gonna plus up this front office show.
That's right.
You've never seen before.
That's right. All kinds of new transitions and things like that.
Interns and everything.
All right. I think we'll wrap things up there. So maybe we can try to make it over to that game as quick as we can here.
There you go.
But thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Ring that notification bell as well. Till next time, stay safe and see ya.